So in this video, I might be talking myself into buying a bag of Metis again. Maybe, we'll see. But altcoins to buy for 2024, this looks like a fantastic option, in my opinion. Let's go through Metis. A lot's changed since I last held it. I actually held it like a year and a bit ago, made a little bit of money on it. Yeah, should I held? Maybe, but it kind of did deplete a lot in terms of price. Up until recently, let's go into it. So, first things first, if you don't know what this is, it's basically a layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum. Think of it kind of like, you know, Polygon, if you want to know it as that. But over the last coming months, things have changed. There's a bridge, there's multiple dexes, there's a massive ecosystem fund, which is $350 million, I believe, which is higher than most top 50 projects, right? That's big. So there's a lot of funding involved there. You've also got the technology side of it. It's relatively fast. It is still very, very cheap. And the token value locked is massive. And we'll go into that. So that's the kind of the basics of it, right? Now, this is kind of the new website. It's changed a lot since I last covered it. Total transactions are going up. The wallet addresses are going up. Total value locked, not bad, realistically, right? So it's looking relatively good. And even this morning, I've just put on my Patreon saying I'm doing a video on Metis. It's looking like great value for the long term. That's all I've put. It's there. I sold reserve rights. I didn't really believe in it. I was 2% of my portfolio. And I've got a space in my portfolio. This sort of thing is what I like to go for. And I want to explain this right now. Some assets come out at quite a weirdish time where they're not actually fully there. Think of it like a skeleton, right? You're in the workshop, you're a skeleton. You've not got the muscle, the tissue, and the skin on you, right? You are very much a shell, right? A lot of altcoins are like that. They come out, they get funded, they rock it for a little bit, and then they don't do anything decent long standing because there's no real progression, if that makes sense, right? Metis fits, in my opinion, that kind of mold. It's like Near Protocol. It's like Rose, where they come out, they do okay because of the hype in the market, but realistically, there's no real substance there. Metis fits that profile, which is why it's starting to intrigue me. When we go down and look at like all the information here, as I've mentioned before, there's a lot of things happening now, which will make it sustain. And when normies, hello normal people, when you come back to the market, you're going to start seeing people adopt it, use it, and more developers, more buyers, more degenerates, etc. And things will start to kind of rocket. When we look again at like TVL and stuff, closing 2023 with the third highest TVL among Ethereum Layer-2s, and this is just the beginning. Probably is. Let me explain, because this is kind of where we're at. That is, I know it's a bit small, sorry mobile users, a big rise, a very big rise. And I know it's like there's a massive gap between the top two, but that's kind of a good gap to kind of get to that point, if that makes sense. If we're talking about undervalued, we want the network effect to grow, then that will grow everything, realistically, right? When we talk about the ecosystem, there's a lot on it. There's a lot of good things on it. I'm going to go through a couple of them. Very, very simple, and it's very, very obvious. And, you know, when we talk about these and we talk about adoption, and again, we go back to network effect, which is going to increase more people to use it. And how easy is it to use? The Metis ecosystem is fast to use, it's cheap, and relatively easy to kind of plug in and play, which is kind of what you want. When we look at other elements, there's a bridge. You can bridge your tokens. That's good. I'm crying out for bridges on other ecosystems that I'm invested in because it makes it a bit easier. So, tick in the box. There's platforms like Hermes, right? I know, random name. But it's clean, it's simple, it works, right? All of this sort of situation is required for people to use, adopt, and all kinds of stuff. When we look at like liquidity and stuff like that, there's a lot of things here. This is a really simple bit of kit that will work, right? People want to use it and they will use it. Another one is Tevis. Again, similar sort of vibe. You get the idea. So the adoption is there for people, well, not so much the adoption, the infrastructure is there for adoption, which will then create interest, which will create people to develop on it, build on it, trade on it, all that kind of stuff. And there's another one as well, is it symbiosis or whatever it's called? Similar, as you can see, it's all there. It's all there, it's good to see. But in terms of the price, this is where it gets interesting. It's broken out of like a year consolidation, right? That's huge in itself. But you've also got to think as well, I know this is going to sound really, really daft, I'm going to say it. Let's think about a normal person. The circulating supply of Metis is 5.4 total. So I know I said circulating, but you get the idea. Maximum supply is 10 million. Total is 5.4 million. And circulating supply is 4.5 million, right? Now, what does this mean? A little supply could mean a little supply shock in a way, because there's an element of, staking. Reduce that, reduce the mining side of it as well, could equal a potential supply shock. Why is this important? Because normal people in the market, sorry to insult people, will look at this and think fair value. We'll think it's a high price, it must mean it's good. And I know it sounds dumb to a lot of experienced people, but a lot of new people come to the space, will look at that price and think it's good. Even though the market cap's a lot lower, that would indicate that they're going to buy it anyways, which I know it sounds dumb methodology, but for some reason people like that side of it, because they keep seeing the numbers going up. They don't look at the percentage, they just look at the numbers. When we look at where the price has been, it was $320 all-time high roughly. And when I talk about, it came out a bit of a naff time, and it did, it came out mid-cycle. The hype took it, off it went, right? But when we start looking at the coin perspective here on Metis, this is where it gets very interesting. When we talk about market capitalization, people are like, well, whatever. But the reality is, I need to change that. I don't know if that's correct or not, but we'll leave it. When we talk about potential levels, if we look at $1,000, that's only a $5.1 billion market capitalization. I know that sounds mental, me just saying that and just throwing a 12x there. But the reality is, what is Polygon? What is, all the other ecosystems that are somewhat a rival to this? Let's look at Polygon. What is that currently? That is a $7.7 billion market capitalization coin. We've got, what else? We've got OP, 3.1 billion. There's others. There's ARB as well, 2.2. So you get the idea? There is definitely some sort of gains here for it to kind of catch up on. But the reality is $80, right? And this could run back up to its all-time high. Its all-time high was 322, give or take, $1.6 billion. The market hasn't really turned up yet. That's the thing. So when we talk about network effect, adoption, people using it, cool. When we look at the price, it's kind of adding up. But when we start talking about supply, and people like to look at bigger supply for some reason, I don't know why, they just do, because they think there are multiples there. Some really stupid people think that lower market capitalization coins are never going to do anything. Let's buy the more experienced stuff. But there's also the obvious of, people want to buy stuff that looks good, right? When you start seeing this rise in terms of dollars, you'll probably see people gravitate to it. Now, technicals, as you can see, we have had a bit of a market pump. But again, when we talk about where it can go, there's still a long way for this to go. This could break out pretty severely over time, certainly when you get a lot of interest in it. When we talk about key levels, this key level here around $60 broke very, very convincingly in the past. But so did this one, this $40. It absolutely went absolute rampant. And it's going to consolidate for a bit, probably. We'll see where it goes. But those are the two obvious levels. Let me just zoom back into those levels. So you can kind of see them, right? They're kind of there. They're kind of obvious. But the reality is here, right, if that starts to trickle down, it could get very, very interesting. But I don't see it happening. I think the network effect is going to get more and more aggressive over time. Certainly when people get more aware of it, but certainly as green candles get kind of flooded in, people start talking about it. Obviously, there is the looming element. If you're watching this video in the future, hello, but there's an ETF potential approval happening very, very soon, which could send the entire market capitalization of everything north, potentially. So it's very, very interesting. I'm still on the fence whether I'm going to buy it, but it sounds like a pretty good potential, out there in terms of going for it, in terms of multiples. even if this goes and retests, say, $166 and stuff like that, people are going to start waking up and looking at it, especially if the TVL starts to move. And yes, as I say, you can see, I know this is an old image, but there's a huge amount of like gappage, which could be, you know, hopefully over time built into. So yeah, looks pretty good. I like it. And there you go. They are my honest thoughts on it. I do feel there is value here. And when we look at the entire market of this, by the way, just to kind of give you an idea, if we're going to go from the low to the high, there's still a long way to run. There's still some potential gains here. It just depends on how much you want to make, obviously. But network effect, normies coming back, la 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 la. And we know what happens with Ethereum when it starts to get a bit clunky. Good alternative. Anyways, if you like my stuff, please leave the video a like. If you want to see more of my stuff, subscribe. And I do more stuff on Patreon. And I also have more education content out there as well. So yeah, enjoy.